When you turn on your radio, by the time your ear gets to hear your favourite song in glorious left and right stereo, you're mindlessly enjoying the end result of a huge journey that involves the tiniest of sounds and the hugest of egos. You see, musicians have to first work to capture these painstakingly honed individual sounds. Melodies.
I went in search of a reasonable man.
And only then can they attempt to mix them perfectly together to create the one community of stereo sound that modern humans call a song.
And I said, ooh, I must be lonely to be the only voice of reason.
My name's Holly Fulbrook, and I'm in a band called Tiny Ruins.
Tiny Ruins are a three-piece from Auckland, headed up by Holly Fulbrook. And for her, the songwriting process is fraught with difficulty.
I write the songs and the melodies, the guitar parts, and then I take them to Cass and Alex, my band, and we build the song up from what I've written. Never really knowing whether something is good and playing it to your bandmates for the first time is really horrible. But they're always kind of supportive at that stage to get it going to the next level, I guess.
So for you, the songwriting process begins as quite an insecure one and then takes a long time.
Totally, that's to hit the nail on the head. Yeah, which is why it's sometimes so hard to commit to early songs, because they always feel bad to me when I first write them.
Released in 2014, Brightly Painted One is Tiny Ruins' second full-length album and was awarded the Best Alternative Album at the New Zealand Music Awards. And Reasonable Man is one of the standout tracks from that album.
I haven't told anybody this. This was written in a tent in the Masai Mara in Kenya.
Wow.
And the reason I was there is that my boyfriend at the time was managing a conservancy, like a wildlife conservation park. He'd been there for 6 months and I went to visit. So I spent a week pretty much hanging out in this tent because it's so hot during the day. So this song was written shortly before I then broke up with him and had an accident in Africa where I broke 3 bones. I broke my foot, my shoulder, and my hand. So this was a couple of weeks after writing Reasonable Man.
Was it a helicopter accident?
No, scooter. Pretty glamorous.
Was it a miserable time for you? Or?
It was, but for me and personally, some of the hardest times have also been, there's just always something humorous about it. And another thing is that there was no hospital or medical treatment on the island of Zanzibar, which is where I had the accident. So we were kind of holed up in this hotel room for about 10 days trying to get off the island.
Were you just sitting there broken?
Yeah, lying there.
Untended to?
Totally.
For 10 days? Bones grating on bone.
It was almost comic because he had to carry me everywhere. He had to carry me up these stairs at the hotel, and we were arguing.
Not in a wheelbarrow, in his arms.
In his arms.
With your arms grinding.
Romantic, yeah. With my
limp,
with my hand healing in the wrong place.
Oh.
I had to re-break it. It was just like, what is this situation? We were still partially trying to have a holiday. I tried to capture that in the song. I didn't want it to be a miserable song. I wanted it to be a little bit tongue-in-cheek.
But what is it about Reasonable Man that typifies the Tiny Ruins sound that's melted the hearts of so many people? How did they make sounds like this one? And these? And why do some songs actually sound worse when they're recorded in an expensive studio? To get the answers to our questions, we gave Holly Fulbrook from Tiny Ruins a large pot of tea and got her around a mixing desk to show us the anatomy of Reasonable Man and what it is that makes this song so special.
Well, where do you want to begin? Do you want to begin with acoustic?
Sounds like my Suzuki. The Suzuki is my mum's guitar. It's an old Japanese one from the 70s that I grew up playing from when I was about 11. And, it's obviously like very sentimental.
So you're recording vocals and guitar at the same time?
I went in search of
Yeah.
reason.
Recorded the vocals and guitar live.
Do you find it hard recording and doing all that plucking work while singing, or is it?
This song was hard. I remember, I had to practice the guitar part a lot to not screw it up, especially at this bit, the chorus.
What do you like about fingerpicking?
I like the feeling of the rhythm that it gives you and the way that you can kind of slot your vocal in around. It gives you so much more colour and variation than a heavy strum. We recorded the entire album in a studio called The Lab in Auckland. There's a main professional studio room, which is quite large, and it has, all the usual big sound desk and everything.
I feel like you're going to say you weren't in that one.
We weren't. Although, for 2 days, we decided to spend, most of our budget on hiring the big room for 2 or 3 days. We recorded this song and 1 or 2 others in that big room to kind of get a more epic sound for those songs. And we ended up scrapping 2 of the songs, including this one, because it sounded too epic. And I wanted to bring this song down back into a small space and for it to be intimate. The rest of the album, including this one, were recorded in a kit set room that Tom Healy bought on Trade Me. And Tom built the room inside what used to be the pool table area of the lab. And it's like a very dead space. There's no reverb or anything.
But it's straight like
So we got your vocals.
Folded up, and he took that.
But you can hear the guitar there because you were tracking the vocals and the guitar at the same time.
And I said, ooh, it must be lonely to be the only voice of reason. The sky once so rosy, now my world is crumbling down.
Tell me about your voice. Did you always sing like this?
No, I don't think I did. I always sang. I remember singing myself to sleep as a child. I'm sure lots of kids do that. And then I started writing songs when I was 14. I loved jazz, but my voice was really high pitched and not very nice. I didn't think it was very nice at all. And so I was writing songs and I was singing them in my bedroom, but I didn't think that I had any kind of a voice. And it wasn't really until I was 22 that I started singing, and I felt like my voice had got a bit lower, and I kind of found a way of singing that I liked. And it was quite a weird discovery because I'd always felt like I hated my singing voice. On a song like this, which I think it's really about the feeling, of the words, and so I'm not really belting anything out.
Where you going, reasonable man?
Well, shall we have a look at the harmony?
Yeah.
So this is Cass.
Gets tough. Where you going, reasonable man?
I love Cass's singing voice. It's really
It's a beautiful element.
it. So it makes sense when you have the harmony part, it's like another instrument, adding another melodic and harmonic build up, it's like another layering bit.
Should we talk about the bass next?
Yeah.
Beautiful sounding.
Cass has only been playing the double bass for maybe a year or two. She's an electric bass player. She developed this bass line over months of touring, and it gets more and more active as the song goes on.
And it feels like, to me, in terms of the tent, that the first half of the song is you in the tent and the second half is the argument.
Yeah.
So is that why all of the musical ideas begin to speed up and why there's sort of an intensity that's trying to capture the flourish of an argument?
Totally, yeah. The first half of the song is almost a little bit whimsical and it's almost a little bit idealistic and childish. It's really when it goes to that second chorus, instead of saying, I hear a rumbling sound, it's my world is crumbling down, which, suddenly becomes, a lot more serious, and that's probably the bit that I wrote in retrospect.
You like the rattle? Do you like that rattle?
I do. I really like it. Yeah.
Is that how a double bass is supposed to sound, or is that how it sounds when it's played by someone that hasn't played it their whole life? I've never quite worked that out.
Yeah, I mean, like Cass's bass playing, she would be the first to admit it at this point in time. She's still like getting her head around the double bass. She's still
moving around.
Learning how to play it.
Her biceps must be huge because she's not just playing one note. I mean, she's cranking around.
She has tiny arms. I don't know how she does it.
It was a bad choice of instrument, really, for her in some ways.
The first time we recorded this song, Alex's drum part was quite radically different. And I think I said to him, look, I think we need it to be a bit more broken down, which is when he developed this part where he drops out and just comes in with these percussive fills and things. It's really meant to resemble the weather, to resemble the thunder that is mentioned in the first chorus, the rumbling sound.
And I said,
he said that he changed the drum part to play off of the vocal more.
voice of reason, the sky.
Most songs lock in with the bass, don't they? But he's
Yeah.
sort of locked in with your vocal.
Now my world is crumbling down.
Totally, and he said that he changed it in order to highlight the vocal more. So he kind of approaches the song from a songwriter's perspective.
You got that kind of the brush with the snare there.
Yeah, this is where he really kicks in. And I think
30
it's funny
seconds
how...
left, he's here.
Totally. He really locks in this funny way in this outro. I think when I first heard it, I was like, ooh, is there something weird going on with this outro? But I ended up loving it, and it was like part of the album that I really looked forward to was that slightly odd, a little bit like it's a mistake.
Interesting, isn't it? Often the genius is sort of offensive to begin with of things.
That's one way of putting it.
But like I can imagine you going, is that what we're going for?
Yeah. But for me, it made the song, like I thought that the way that it just clinches in, like it just makes the beat in that last little few seconds. I love that kind of thing.
What kind of strings we got?
Cello and violin. And that's my flatmate Siobhan on the violin and me on the cello.
You play the cello?
I do, yeah. That's actually my first instrument, learnt growing up. And now I'm pretty rusty and I just use it on recording, and I just felt like it needed that heart-pulling element. Strings always make something sound sadder.
Less reasonable.
Yeah.
So, after spending all this time creating and capturing these individual bits, what does Tiny Ruins think they've achieved when all these parts work together?
I think we achieved an honest rendition of the song, and that's kind of my main focus when we're recording is how do we capture the essence of the song, how do we capture the feeling of the song when I wrote it. And so the first time we recorded it, I just didn't feel it. I didn't get the pull of the emotions.
What do you hope people will feel when they listen to it for the first time? What would you hope someone would feel?
I don't like talking about how I want the listener to feel because that's not even my remit, but if they feel anything, then that's good. If they don't feel anything, then I've kind of failed.
You hope to chase the numbness away.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Okay, no, that's good.
I think that's kind of what any artist is trying to do, is to provoke something in someone else. And if it doesn't do that, then it's kind of failing a little bit. I hope that we did that with the song, but I don't know. I don't know for sure.
And a big thanks to Tiny Ruins. Anatomy of a Song is a radio adventure crafted by RDU, funded by New Zealand On Air, and produced by Rachel Morton, Jonny Pipe, and me, Spanky Moore. Thank you for listening.